What's up everyone, welcome back to Anime 7. Today we're diving into one of the most unsettling and symbolic chapters in Chainsaw Man. Chapter 228, titled Dove. At first glance, this chapter feels like it's just continuing the brutal chaos from the previous fight, but Fujimoto is doing something far deeper here. Every panel carries weight, and by the end, it becomes less about action and more about tragedy. The chapter opens with Asa collapsed on the ground, injured and exhausted. She looks confused, almost disturbed, because something is wrong. She asks herself, why won't this wound heal? This is a huge detail, because in Chainsaw Man, injuries usually don't stay for long. Devils regenerate, blood restores bodies, and damage often feels temporary. So when Asa realizes her wound isn't healing, it immediately tells us that something abnormal is happening. This isn't just physical injury anymore, it's something connected to rules beyond normal fighting. Then we cut to Chainsaw Man himself, torn apart and barely holding together. His body looks horrific, like he's been shredded down to scraps, yet he's still conscious enough to speak, and instead of roaring or attacking, he says something unexpected. It's about the wording of a contract. This is where the chapter becomes chilling. Fujimoto reminds us that Denji's existence isn't free, it's built on contracts, conditions, and cruel loopholes. Chainsaw Man explains that the Americans' help is now attacking instead. This line sounds strange, but the implication is terrifying. Denji's healing depends on outside support, something like blood, assistance, or belief. But the contract has a condition: if Denji hurts himself, that support stops being help and becomes harm. That means when Denji crashed his motorcycle into the school, it counted as self-inflicted damage. And because of that, his injuries won't heal. The contract itself is punishing him. Denji isn't just fighting enemies, he's trapped inside rules that turn against him even when he makes a mistake. As the chapter continues, we see Asa standing there, staring at Denji's broken form. Her expression shifts from anger to shock, and then to something closer to horror. This is a major turning point. Asa begins to realize Chainsaw Man isn't some unstoppable monster. He's suffering. He's being torn apart in a way that doesn't make sense, and it forces her to see him differently. In this moment, the distance between hero and victim starts to blur. Then comes the most symbolic part of the chapter, the dove. A bird appears, flapping quietly through the destruction. It feels almost peaceful, completely out of place in the violence. Doves represent peace, innocence, and purity. Fujimoto deliberately places this symbol in the middle of blood and ruin. Asa asks, "Why'd you avoid that dove?" And that question is not just literal, it's symbolic. It's like she's asking Denji why he always avoids peace, why innocence is something he can never touch, why even something harmless becomes unreachable in his world. Chainsaw Man responds with the haunting line, "Because you hate it." When birds are killed. Suddenly, the dove isn't just a bird. It represents innocence being destroyed. It represents peace being impossible. Denji's life has been nothing but survival through violence, and even when something pure appears in front of him, he can't approach it. He avoids it because he knows how his world works. Innocence always dies. The chapter ends with Asa standing over him, shaken and silent, as the chaos settles. The action pauses, and what remains is emotional weight. Chapter 228 isn't about who won the fight. It's about contracts being cages, about Denji being punished even for accidents, and about Asa beginning to understand the tragedy behind Chainsaw Man's existence. The dove becomes the perfect symbol of what Denji can never truly have: peace. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, and don't forget to subscribe to Anime 7 for more Chainsaw Man explanations, theories, and anime deep dives. And comment below, what do you think the dove truly represents? Peace, innocence, or something darker?